10 years ago, Toynami released the 20th anniversary Masterpiece Voltron, the first die-cast transforming Voltron we'd seen since 1984. And now we have the 30th anniversary Voltron from Toynami based off the same design. So let's open up this box and find out whether it's worth the upgrade or not. Right off the bat, the first thing you notice is the difference in packaging. This is the 20th anniversary Toynami packaging. It came in its Masterpiece book style packaging with new artwork. It was cool for the time, but as you can see, the 30th anniversary really goes back to Chogokin roots. It has the full box with the dynamic artwork and the handle on it. What it really looks like isn't so much this packaging, it's a far cry from that. It actually has a lot more in common with this packaging. The similarities to the original Chogokin Go Lion don't stop with the box art. It actually goes into the interior of the box as well. Here's the interior of the Beast King Go Lion box with the window tray that's traditional for Japanese robots. And look what they've done at Toynami for the 30th anniversary here. A very similar homage style to the original Go Lion. It's quite nice. We lift the tray and we get to the first layer of styrofoam. This is actually quite different from the Chogokins in that there's two layers of styrofoam because we also have the display base underneath. But first, as you can see, the lions are wrapped in some very nice plastic to keep them from getting scuffed up in the styrofoam, although I doubt the styrofoam would hurt the paint apps on these lions. I'll get these off here in a second, but just so that you can see one. Nice die-cast construction. You can already see that there's some nice articulation here in the head and arms. We'll get to that a little bit later, but let's get to the second layer. You notice these half circles here. These are key for getting the lions out. You want to make sure that when you pull these lions out of the styrofoam that you get a finger under there and pull from their midsection, because otherwise you could strain their neck joints because they're pretty tightly packed in here, which is good for shipment, but if you get impatient, you know, you could do some damage possibly. And you don't want to do that with your nice new 30th anniversary Voltron set. So let's get these out of here and then we'll get on to the next layer. First layer is clear. Let's lift it off and see what we have underneath. All right. This is where the main event happens for the 30th anniversary Voltron. This is the display base. As you can see, we have a very nice 30th anniversary collector's instruction manual here in plastic. If you've ever formed the Toynami Voltron before, you won't need it, but if this is your first die-cast Toynami Voltron, it's nice to have it. And as you can see, this is the first time that we get all of the lion blades, which is really awesome. It was something that was severely lacking from the 20th anniversary Masterpiece. I'm really excited to see those here. So I guess the first thing we need to do is pull the base out and get it constructed. When you get the base out, the first thing you'll probably want to do before you actually start assembling all of the blades and all of the display stands and everything like that, you want to flip it over because this is where the AA batteries are going to go in for the sound effects. And it does require a Phillips head screwdriver to get in there and get those covers off. So let's pull that off first. It would be rather difficult to do this with the stand attached because you wouldn't be able to lay this down flat. Alright, so it takes 3 AA's. AA's alternate, but anybody who grew up in the 80s knows how to put AA's in a toy. I hope. Alright, so the first step is to build the sword and shield stand. They always call it a shield, and I don't understand why, because it's actually it's called the Space Cutter. It's actually a throwing weapon that Voltron uses. He never uses it as a shield, but I guess that's just been the nomenclature for all the toys for 30 years, so we'll just go with it. All of the stand parts are keyed, and you want to start with the tallest, widest one first. They can only go in one way, which is good, and take note of the shape. The shape will tell you which way and on what side these parts go. The first thing we're going to do is put on the shield mount, like so. And then you have this additional bit right here that goes on. And then the sword stand goes on top. So that is That is our weapon stand for Voltron. Now, the next part you want to do is put in the lion blades, which is nice because each lion blade has its own designated space on the stand as well. If you look at each one, they're shaped, so they're in their own way, they're keyed. So the green lion blade will go here, and then the blue lion blade goes next to that, and then you've got black lion's blade, and then red lion. And these are pretty nice. They're, you know, vac metallized in chrome. It's a nice arrangement. It really harkens back to the original Go Lion. So you've got green, blue, black, red, and yellow all surrounding the 5-star base, which you recognize from the control console in the Voltron Lion. Now, the best part about this is the key. The key is designed 2 ways. You can set it nicely in the slot here and just have it displayed. It has this middle section which has sort of a clip that you can, I guess, clip onto your clothes if you felt inclined. I don't know why you do that. And then the top of it splits so that it hinges open, and then you can remove this piece as it would have done on the show. Now when you do, you can set that aside. This key then slips right in, and then just like on the show, which is pretty awesome because it recreates all of the sound effects from the original show of the startup sequence of the Lions. And if you want to deactivate that, you can just move the key off to the side as they would have done in the show itself, in the Lions. So now we get to the main event. We get to assemble Voltron. We'll start by forming the feet and the legs, which makes sense because that's how they did it on the show. One of the things I really like about the Toynami Voltron Lions, all the way back to the 20th anniversary masterpiece, is it's a little detail, but I think it's really cool. It's this chrome engine piece that's on the underside of each lion. And you might think that that's just a detail piece that they added for kicks, but I think this was inspired by the original Popey Chigokins. And I'll show you what I mean. This is an original Popey Chigokin blue lion. And if you flip it over, you'll see that it has a silver foil sticker on the underside. All of the lions back then, including the ones in the United States by Matchbox, had these stickers. And it has copyright information on it in Japanese, the year it was made, the logo for Beast King Go Lion. And I think what they decided to do was, since that was such an intrinsic part of the Diecast Lions, they decided to turn that into a real detail piece rather than just have it be a sticker, so that it maintains the look, but it also enhances it at the same time, which I think is pretty awesome. Alright, so the first thing we need to do is correct the legs, because the legs in the box were folded in a way to minimize movement within the styrofoam. So let's get the lion's head up. First thing we got to do is twist these legs around, and the legs are on ratchets, so they're not, so pull the head up gently. The legs are on ratchets, so it shouldn't be too big of a problem. You want to pull that leg down and then tuck that foot under. And that should be good. Do that on both sides. That's one leg ready to go. I'll do the same thing with the yellow lion. Head up until that locks down in place on both sides. All right. So now those legs are ready. So there's a door in the back of the lion. I'm not going to make any suggestive comments. Leg goes in, and then we should have it snap. Yep, snaps into place. We'll do that for yellow. You want to be careful here because this guy has a lot of hip articulation, which is really great in robot mode. But when you're assembling him, you want to be careful to make sure that everything locks in as it did before you let go, because you don't want these things crashing to the table. But as you can see, it's pretty sturdy. It's not going anywhere. All right. Before I put the arms on, I want to remind you that you have lion blades. So if you decide you want to display the lions as lions rather than Voltron, the blades fit nicely into the lions' mouths because of nicely spaced grips for their fangs. Let's get red lions out right here. Do it like this. As you can see, it's pretty well done. I got to give a hand to Toynami for the quality that they put into this piece. All right, but let's make them the famous arms of Voltron here. So I'll get these back where they belong. And the way this works is, thankfully, these lions already kind of have their legs in the right place. So there's a dedicated pin right here. You gotta be a little careful because you're next to the tip of the tail and you don't want to bend that. Alright, so this little piece comes out and it's a square piece, so it keys. And right now it is slotted properly. So this is always the diciest prospect on any diecast Voltron, all the way back to the 80s Matchbox. It's a tough call to try and figure out exactly how these arms are supposed to go in, but you do want them to fit snug and you do want them in there right the first time. Alright, so this is not easy to do, I won't lie, but you want to make sure that that arm, when it's pressed in there, is flush with the shoulder. You don't want any of this piece visible when you get done. And I always recommend that if you are going to use the Toynami Voltrons, either choose the lions. There we go. Let's see. Choose the lions or choose the robot mode and then keep it there on display for a while. Don't be transforming this thing back and forth because it's really meant to be a display piece, and the constant transforming back and forth is just going to weaken all these joints. It's not a fragile piece, but it's also not meant to be played with 24/7. So keep that in mind. So there's the finished bot. We got to get his wings up. And he looks pretty good. I mean, there are some people that say that he's out of proportion, that this isn't the definitive Voltron. There's been a lot of criticism over the last 10 years about the Toynami design. Frankly, as a kid that grew up in the 80s, I think this Voltron is awesome. I think it's great that we have a Voltron that can finally hold the blazing sword in both hands, which is something that not even the Matty Collector one was able to do after the Toynami one had been made. And you got to remember too that everybody's standard for what is the definitive Voltron is different. You've got animation that's 30 years old, more than 30 years old now, 33 years old, that wasn't perfect from shot to shot. Voltron's proportions changed from shot to shot. So who's to say what the definitive Voltron toy is supposed to look like? What drawing or moment are you basing that on? There are many shots in the original animated series that look just like this Voltron, and then there are many that don't. So for me, saying whether or not one design is definitive versus another, I think is really spitballing. I think this is an amazing design. I'm really glad to see the way this is looking now. And before we put him on his pedestal and get all of his weapons put in his hands, I want to show you the one last feature on this piece that really sets it apart from any other Voltron that's been made. Underneath Voltron's chin is a plastic tab. You can see it kind of right here. Now, there's a message on the tab that says do not discard, and the reason you don't want to do that is because it actually is a piece of the set. If I pull this out, I'll set it to the side, put it somewhere safe, but this is what blocks a metal-on-metal connection within his neck, so that if you choose, when you bring his head down, his eyes light up. Now what's cool about this is I said earlier, you know, it's a feature that hasn't really been seen before. Technically, it has. It's been seen on the Trendmasters Super Jumbo 20-inch Voltron from back in the 90s. But you have to remember that that toy is all plastic and it's extremely fragile. The Black Lion shatters. It's just not a robust piece. This is the first time that LED features have been incorporated into a die-cast Chogokin homage, which is really what I've always wanted to see. I hope that one day they do another one, possibly a different mold, a different sculpt, I hope, that has all the lion eyes light up on their own, which would be really great, and then comes with additional features. But for now, I'm super happy with this particular version. I think he looks really sharp. And if you don't want to display him with his eyes lighting up like that, but you want him as the robot, then you just put this little plastic piece back up under his jaw, and then open his face again, and the eyes won't light up. Now, if you already have the 20th anniversary, do you really need this one? I say you do. I say it's a great upgrade because you're getting the bass, you're getting the sound effects, you're getting the lion blades, you're getting the stand, you're getting the light up eyes. It's just a great package. And if I were, you know, in someone's position and didn't own a diecast Voltron, this would be the one to get. Don't go out on eBay looking for the others. Get this one because it's got everything and more.